Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's please send it to me. Thank you. It's not coming. Wait, did you send it to me? Ah, it might take a long time because it's the file is big. I mean, it's still sending. I'm sure it's still sending. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Okay. Okay. So right after you've open your file, so if your file is upside down, go to image. Okay, let's go image rotation 180 degree. Rotate it, and you will see some space was not cropped really well. So go to crop, and then define the edges. Try to find. You can crop. Okay, let's pull out some elevation view, elevation rendering you did. Let's pull out the PSD file of the elevation rendering. This is some kind of extra thing. But I definitely will show you how to do it during the watercolor rendering in watercolor enhancement. So let's see. So you guys almost done with your rendering. So now the space looks a little empty. So I would like to add some human, people who really using the space. So let's go ahead to Google human figure for rendering or Revit, whatever it is. Human figure for rendering. And you'll see the numbers of images from Google. And then since we are in elevation view, please find something with the profile view, side view of the human figure. I think there are a lot of human figure here, but you may use some figures with you may use a photographic image of the figure, but you also consider to use kind of like line work or silhouette of the human figure as well, because sometimes the photographic image doesn't look good in your rendering, so you might need to considering both way, like both way, whether you would like to use photographic image or just a like silhouette or like black and white human figure. But let's start from the photographic image. So there's always chance to change the color of the human figure later. So I would like to have more options. So I'll go ahead and copy image from Google. Try to find some like big file. If the file is too small, the human shape will be pixelated as well. So try to find something comparably bigger one, and then paste it. Hit Ctrl V to paste, Ctrl T to modify, and then let's see.
You want to redo all that?
Let's start over. Okay, Google. Go to Google and then find human figure for rendering.
You said it could be a silhouette.
Pardon me?
Did you say it could be a silhouette?
Yeah, it could be silhouette. But let's start from the photographic image. So I'll show you how to change photographic image to silhouette. And when you find human figure, you should find some images without any like background color. Like this is like perfect. I mean, one of the good image. Okay.
That projector's being weird today.
Oh, there is
Okay.
glitching.
Good. So there you go. Okay, so when you type the human figure for rendering, you will see several images in Google, and you need to find some image without any background, because we're gonna like collect one or two figures from that image. To easily collect the figure, you should not have like background image to like use Magic Wand tool. So I'll use this image. Go ahead and copy image from Google and Ctrl V to paste it. And when you press Ctrl V, and it automatically generates a new layer with the new image information.
Did you say
Ctrl V. Ctrl C, Ctrl V is like common key for any other tools, right? Black?
No, we're only worried about
Human figure for rendering. So any types of image that you think that you can like select the background easily to cut out from that file. So like for example, this image it has only white color for background. So using Magic Wand tool, I can easily select the white area and then delete. So we can have like clear human figure image.
Which tool do you want to use?
Ctrl V. Yes.
What button?
And then it automatically yeah, the delete to when you after you select the background and then press delete key to delete the background. So Control V to paste.
Just touch the white stuff.
And then you, yeah, I mean, the Photoshop automatically generate a new layer when you paste it. You didn't? So then you create a new layer and then paste it.
Posting it on my layer 0.
Just click it to activate the layer. Okay, so and select any types of human figure that you think it really fit in your elevation. So I would use select or lasso tool or the rectangular market tool. Then and I would use this guy. Okay, so drag and drop your file, and then rotate the image, and then go to File, and then crop the image until you find the right definition, and then go to File, and save as Photoshop. Save as Photoshop. Okay. And then hit OK for format options. And first, most of you might need to adjust the color, adjust the like contrast, or adjust the brightness. So let's go to adjustment. No, do not use that. Let's go to the layer layer adjustment layer function here. So let's go to the adjustment layer below the layer panel. Here, right below the layer panel, and then hit the circle one. Hit the circle symbol until you find the curve. So using curve, you can modify or adjust the amount of contrast. This is totally up to your preference. But for this rendering, I think the current brightness is like contrast and the brightness is good enough. So I might not need some very much. And then maybe some of you forgot to add like enough shade in for your this wall with the window with the opening. So this time let's use lasso tool. Create a new layer. Let's create new layer. I will show you how to add some shading using Photoshop. So I'll create a new layer, and then use lasso tool to select this wall. The left wall with opening, because it might be good to have it a little darker to create more contrast, but I don't need to include the window frame. Oh, stop. I need to check. I should have checked my feather amount. The feather should not be 5. It could be like 1 or 0. I would start from 1 to make more smooth, a little bitty of smooth edge. And let's select again. If you don't like if you like accidentally like point some other area, use backspace to cancel that point. If I accidentally pointed the other area, use backspace. You can always go back to until you find where it belongs. Use backspace to go back when you use lasso tool. So here, I selected this wall without frame. I excluded the frame and the window. And then use gradient. We'll use gradient tool, and currently it it applies the black foreground color. So I'm happy with it. And then find the transparent gradation. It doesn't matter actually, but yeah, let's find the gradient with transparency and hit OK. And then let's draw gradient or this or okay. So I think it's too dark, of course. Let's change the opacity. And let's change the option to multiply. I think currently the rendering has enough darkness for this window, so it might be too much if I add to shade here.
So now, like, if I do like 30, is that better?
30?
Or is that too dark?
I think it's good. It's good. So if you pointed out that you might so there are some people who lost your point from details. I'm pretty sure those who lost your point from details are a little lack of shading. So please add shade in your rendering. So I hope you review all the rubric I gave away with the rendering. So please read the whole thing and then ask me ask me if you have any questions. If you want more detailed explanation of the rubric, please ask me, because you need that reflection. You need that reflection. You need to reflect that comment to this class activity.
Wait, how do you do the gradient again?
Gradient. So you when you use gradient, you need to select that area first. Use lasso tool. I usually use polygonal lasso tool. If you have circle, the circle one, hold the lasso tool, and then you will see there are like 3 options related.
I got that part, but
Okay.
I don't have the gradient.
Oh, you don't have gradient. So if you select that area, you will see here in the left middle part, the gradient here. Yeah, click that and double to edit gradient. Double click the top area. So it's a gradient editor. It's called gradient editor. So you can change the color of your gradient by double clicking the house symbol. And then make sure that it is transparent. It doesn't have to be, but yeah, transparent. Try to find the transparent gradient. And then, if you find the right amount of gradient, Then click and drag to draw the gradient. Click and drag.
Foreground to transparent. Or
Yeah, foreground to transparent. Use a little yellowish color, or orangey color to give a warmth. And then use a big brush. Then try starting to touch that area, but try not to cover the other selection. I think that would be okay. And because I'm gonna change the opacity as well, because it might be too bright. So I think I really like tinted color. And you need to erase the lighting beyond the plant, the plant area. Use eraser tool, and I'll change the opacity to erase the plants. But leave the edge of the plant as it is, because when you have the daylight, when you have the backlight, the edges like glows. So leave the edges of the plants. Just try to erase the middle of the plant. Erase lighting of the middle of the plant.
Mom,
Hmm?
when I try to erase, it erases like the whole area that I just highlighted. Instead of just just allowing me to erase like.
is it your ears is too big?
I don't know, it doesn't give me the size, so this is the eraser, right?
Then you know how it's all the base and stuff too.
Did you see that sign? This is huge.
Oh. No, it wasn't giving me that.
So mine's not really feathering it. How do you go back and modify it?
At this stage, I'd rather just use eraser to make smooth and measure.
Okay.
Eraser tool, and then change the opacity to 30. Yeah, the frame, like below. Yeah, that should be. Need to erase that too. But as I mentioned, with the backlight, the edge of the object will be a glow, so it would be okay to remain the edge with lighting. If you need to use straight lines, use Shift key and then click and Shift and click the starting point, and then hold the Shift key and then click the end point to draw a straight line. Click the starting point, click the start point, and then hold the Shift key and then click the end point to draw a straight line. Click, click, and Shift, and click, click, and Shift, and click, click, and Shift, and click. Okay, like do the same. Keep trying to enhance your rendering and ask me any questions. If you find some point that you need to edit, but if you have no idea how to edit it, ask me. So I need a time to. Is there anyone who would like to use pen tablet? Yes. The mouse. You okay? What? I have 25 of them. You're going to use it eventually for next assignment.
I think I'm really trying to make like a shadow.
Yeah, and there's she's been doing it.
Well, there's a ball, like volleyball game.
But I know it's.
You know what? Like, I'll come with you, but like, can we take like a little break before we go over there?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want to shower. I want to shower and eat, and I want to break for a second because I'm really frustrated right now.
I just need a little break.
That's true. Yeah, she's right. Absolutely. But like, I know I will feel 15 times better if I take a hot shower. Me too. I can't believe I didn't reach that point in time. I literally had it written in my phone at 3:30. I might be able to set some names to go back.
After. So when you select, did you select the figure? Did you select the figure?
Yeah.
And then Control J. Press hold the Control key and press J to duplicate the selection. Control J to duplicate the selection. So you will see another layer was generated above the human figure layer. So that's how you can duplicate your selection. So now I don't need this whole human figures. What I need is just the one human figure. I just select it. Control T. Select the new layer. You just create it by duplicating, and then Control T, and then move it to the place where it should belong. So select. Okay. So here, So right after you duplicate the selection, you will see the human figure layer is like below the new duplicate layer. Then hide all the human figure layer, and then activate. Select the duplicate layer. You see this layer should be like grayed out. You should select this layer and then Control T. Control T, move and rescale. Move and scale.
How did you get yours to have that blue behind it? Mine still has like white.
Oh, did you delete the background? Did you delete the background?
How do you find that person?
So when you paste the human figure image from Google, then select the white background area, use the magic wand tool.
You're not telling me that I find an image.
Get my first magic wand tool.
Yes, you do.
Oh, that's my grandma here.
What was it again? After you selected the
The Control J to duplicate the selection. The Control J to duplicate the selection. Any questions?
How do you scale?
Scale. So Control T, and then move. You will see the like small squares.
Mine is like, I don't know what's wrong with it, but it's not. You're talking about me.
But like you do
Like it like froze up or something.
Oh, so if you see the X box in your layer, enter to confirm. You see the X box after you paste the image file, enter to confirm, and then right click the layer name. And then you can rasterize.
So how do you like size it down?
Control T. That's the scale.
Remove the box.
Yeah, but how do you keep it so it doesn't make it?
The ratio?
Yeah.
So the
You can
whole
hold
shift.
shift and
No. So it will maintain the original ratio when you click.
oh, unless you
But
press.
if you like to change the ratio, then you need to.
Okay. Okay, so what do I do after?
And select the Control D to Control Z to select, and then find select any figure you would like to use it for your What is the blue list? Oh, okay. Just walk in, find a video now.
Hey, Summer, I know too. I like how your face is in it. I don't know but like, I'm not sure.
So now you need to use magic wand tool to
Yeah, I was still scanning.
use the magic wand to like delete the background area.
You know.
Which layer is it?
This one?
Yeah, there were
guys. I have a giant in my phone.
Oh my god. That's amazing that she's reaching out for that. I think you.
How big do you make that? Like this, right?
So what Rand said to me was like, think about it like this. The countertop is like 3 feet, so then just go up to like
My girl to 5 feet over. Like when I go up to her with her hips at it, that's where her hips are.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, like I think that looks.
This image is like, I think it's just be but when you like
Abby, is your email?
restaurant,
Yeah.
you like if the layer was like small,
This looks so
you
cute.
like
It looks so good scanned.
make smaller and then when you restaurant,
Why just did blue?
spend the image for your restaurant like this is for the restaurant. You spend the image for your restaurant and then you visualize it. You maintain the
It does look way better scanned. Great check.
How do I just get like one person?
so use lasso to
Are you sure this is big enough? If you have this.
You can scale.
use lasso to select the figure and then control J to duplicate the selection. Because you are in the white gray. Both of them are transparent. If you see the check mark, it means transparent. So like double click the opacity to opacity. So you took change opacity to 100. Then you need to drag the white one and drop it. Yes. Drag, click and drag.
This will shadow.
Any questions? It works. Change your opacity.
There you go. Change it back. Is that okay?
Try not to make it too dark. Not too dark. Use opacity. And so the you need to add some contrast. I mean, there are some people who forgot to add shadow. It is great time for you to add shadow. So here, since you still have this rendering already have some shadow, but it might kind of a little hard to see this area. I hope this area could be a little darker. Let's use what is it? Let's use lasso tool again, and then draw.
Make a new layer now.
Yeah, you need to make a new layer. Let's make a new layer before I forget. Okay, make a new layer first, and then let's draw the shape of the shadow like we draw the shape of the lighting. I think it would be good to have this area could be dark too. Not too much. I mean, not this time. Not okay. Let's do that part later. I will exclude that area. Okay, not that area. So here, as I mentioned, the use like layer selection option to exclude some area. Use subtract from selection tool. Activate the subtract selection tool, and then select the area to subtract. So it'll subtract it. So I selected the area, and then let's use brush tool. Brush, and then let's set the color to black again, or it could be. It doesn't have to be black. Maybe if you like to give more warmth in your rendering, it could be you can use like a very dark brown color, such as by clicking around this area.
What tool did you just use to get into that?
To double click the palette. And click the foreground color palette, and then set a color, and maximize the brush. Make your brush size big enough, and then change the hardness. Set the hardness to 0. And now you need to change the opacity. Opacity of the brush here on the top. The top tool function option, there's an opacity option for the brush as well. So how does it work? I will show you how does it work. So if you change the opacity, let's set it 50%. Let's draw it. You will see it keep multiplied. I can add it. I can layer the stroke with opacity option of the brush. So let's start from opacity like 10. Doesn't have to be too dark. Oh, before we start use brush, go to the selection tool, and currently my select lasso tool option does not have any feather amount. So I would like to have more like smooth edge for the shadow. So I need to add feather, but just 5 pixels. The brown? Yeah. Double click the foreground set. And then go to select to modify selection. Go to select panel on the top, and then hit modify, and you will see the feather option in the drop down. And then 5 pixels, I think it's too small because our file is humongous because it's 600 dpi, is really big. So I think 5 pixels is kind of really thin. So I will start 15 pixels. Still hard to see, but let's go for it. So let's use the brush. You will see it's hard to see the difference at the very beginning, but if you gradually add the brush stroke, you will see it will function as a pencil. And the Control D, I think it looks perfect. I love it. And if you still, you maybe just play with the layer option, just in case if I could find another better option. So let's start from multiply. Let's see difference from normal and multiply. I don't see big difference, but I'll just go with the multiply because it usually works for shadows. So I will set it multiply, whatever it is, make things darker. Whatever option, just to make the layer darker. So just keep modifying the opacity of the layer and then modify until you are happy with the amount of shade you just created. Pardon me? Is there any questions?
It does kind of.
I feel so bad for that right now. That was so crappy. Like, I'm going to. I'm gonna do like I do. No, because this point, the next one isn't until October 30th. And my time opens up this week, so that would be yeah. When you know, I just want to know. Like, I have people when I still take people I don't know if I can just take both those things. One, two, and can't. But you can take two before. So I know no matter what, studio won't be my only class. And I know that last semester was mine.
Oh, I forgot.
Because I had kids who no, but I was in 200 and rendering and this, and I studied biology. So that would make 6 classes. And so they were like, don't. So I put off history and finished my last gen. If you can take it this summer, take it in the freaking summer.
I know. I was thinking maybe
That's good. Ready?
yeah, I'm gonna regret my decision.
But it'll be a little bit probably. No, it's like that. 450. Okay, we'll see you in a little bit. Aaron, you're gonna have to work. Just see you tomorrow. Taylor, are you coming tonight?
Were y'all going?
Fusion. Okay. One
If
second.
I want to do work tomorrow, you know,
You got it. You probably will.
I'll probably do my night to work tomorrow. So I don't stay up late. Yeah, I have them off.
Well, that's like, was it 17?
Coming out this morning, and I was sitting there all sad. I was like, Mom, this is class. That's her classes. She's like, you're gonna make me cry. I know. I want to say lay in bed. She's like, I'm so old. Like, yeah. submitted the flip in the elevation spot, and like she tried reopening it for me, but it won't reopen. So I had to email my original and her anyways.
Yeah. When I had to, information just said email.
He's like, what if you don't like me when I come back? And I'll quit. I'll still be in love with you, even if you're thin, or you're
Why is
chunky.
he saying that?
Like they started. They basically went to classes.
Like not both.
No, because like it's like a training where you get put in a room, you get tortured, you get anything that somebody would take you just to try and get information. Is what basically he's doing. And people say, a lot of people say, you come back.
Yeah. From not being fed, from the stress of it.
Weeks of sobbing with that. Because I told us, like, I'll still be able to no matter what. Like, if you look thin or, like, chunky / chubby. That's what I put. And he's like, I love how you said thin or chunky. Like, there's no in between.
What is he?
Oh, is he really? Yeah. Well, like, he's he's fit.
Oh, okay.
Well, like, I'm wondering if some uniforms could fit.
Oh, yeah.
Me having to dress up again about my elevation. Hey, that's not one of the reasons I've been looking at this. Like changing people. So I was like, now I need to like sit. Did you wear your lights for students who are from light art? How did you make them so that if they're short and I need them to be longer?
You should be able to change the cable. Like, if you hit edit type.
Do you have it open?
She's got it. She's in.
Oh, you have your laptop. Yeah, open it. I literally did this last year.
Because I noticed that yours were super long, and I was like,
I was trying to just like click it and like extend it and it wasn't working.
See,
Such a
I've
dork.
only ever used Painting Team.
huh? I went 2019 AutoCAD, and you want to know what I used for my internship? 2014. How much of it?
See it? It literally, yeah, it sucks. Are we adding anything else to this thing?
We did that.
have to hold the shift to like
the time when you need the shift key, when you transform the size of the image, is that when you would like to change the original ratio. So Photoshop, the new Photoshop changes setting to maintain the original ratio when you transform. So the original ratio will be remain when it's a default setting of the transformation. So if you like to change the original ratio, you need to hold the shift key. Yes.
I did the lasso tool, but it's still having like white or black space like around my fingers.
I only have one
Oh, okay. So can I just do like You okay? You're good.
So when you use measurement tool, if the selection you are not satisfied with the selection, change the tolerance to 30.
Okay. Make slimmer down a little. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. So, like add any types of human figure until you feel happy. Then, if you really don't like the photographic image, okay. So there's another way that but human figure, the entourage should not disturb the actual elevation view, actual like drawing of the rendering. So let's start from change the opacity. So I mean, still have the human figure, but it does not disturbing. Or the other way is to create let's remove. You can remove the photographic image and then just remain the silhouette of the human figure. To make a silhouette, create a new layer above that human figure layer, and then fill color with black or white, what types of color you feel pleased. I will fill color with black. So now we can't see anything. But did you remember the parenting I showed you? I'll keep you in mind of you what the parenting is. So if you parent, the parenting is kind of like the parented layer will be followed by the parenting layer. So I will parent this. It's hard to. Okay. So I will. This layer 36 will be included in the layer 35. So use Alt key, hold Alt key, and hover your mouse in the middle of the borderline of two layers. and then you'll see the cursor change it to arrow with the square. Then click, and then you'll see the layer was changed, and then the color is applied on the parenting layer. So now you can change the opacity, or you can just change the color. If you don't like the black color, then change the color.
Wait, can you do that again?
She adds me layer.
So, yeah.
She's black. And then the husband was black.
You're gonna redo it for us?
Yes, I'll redo it. So let's make the human figure more like silhouette of the human figure. So create new layer, and then use Alt key, hold Alt key, and then hover your mouse in between two layers, and you'll see the cursor change to square with arrow. And then when you find that symbol, then click, and you'll see the layer shape system was a little changed. So this arrow means that it was included in that layer. So now what you need to do is to change the color of the layer above until you find the right color for that figure.
How do you change the color? By not.
Alt backspace, and you have foreground and background color here in the palette. So I use Alt backspace to fill color with foreground, and then what is it? The Control backspace key to fill color with background color. Alt backspace to fill foreground color. Control backspace to fill color with foreground background color. So Alt backspace, Control backspace, play with those two keys. And then also you can change the opacity. I think the black doesn't work well. You want me to repeat?
For some reason, my all my figures came back. So can you walk me through? So I shuffled it. And I Command J, right?
And then Control J,
Mm-hmm.
and then hide the layer.
This one. And then
Control T to do this one. It's black.
If I double click in the palette.
Change the color.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
and then you have to add. You don't have that. Like
Control T, enter to confirm.
Or use edit.
Control T again.
This layer is supposed to be black.
Move forward. And Control T.
Hold on. No, why did you lock this layer?
Hard line?
no, but it's supposed to kind of look like that, right? Like, is that too much?
Oh, the edge?
Yeah.
That's
the
too.
feather.
You need more feather. Then you go back. Or you can use eraser. Okay, if you think the edge is too sharp, still, even though you have the feather, the edge might look a little sharp. Then let's use eraser, because it might be faster. Then start over. So click the eraser tool, as I mentioned. Use eraser tool as you use your brush. It functions the same way. So go to eraser tool, and then change the brush eraser setting, and then size and the hardness to set it as 0. And then change the opacity of the eraser. Use the eraser as you use your brush. Though the erasers and the brushes functions are the same. So use eraser to create a smooth edge. Who's calling? And then what I found was that the stand doesn't have shadow. Feather? Okay, let's start. Okay, I will show you. So I will show you how to draw shadow again using this lamp. So this lamp doesn't have shadow. So I need to create a new shadow. So first, make a new layer, and then go to lasso tool, polygon lasso tool, and then select the area. Where's the start? Okay. But I forgot to add feather amount when I use lasso tool. So when you find you need some feather, you need smooth edge for your selection. Go to the select panel on the top. And then modify. And then feather, or use Shift F6. You see the short key. You can use that short key if you remember, but just go to select, modify, and then feather, and then put feather amount like 10 or 15. I'll do 10 because the current stand, the bed is like big, it has like wide shadow area, but the lamp is really tiny, so it has like small shadow area. So it would be too much if I add a feather amount, for big number. So I would put feather radius to 5 pixels. But I'm glad that we are using brush opacity to make smooth edge. So here I go back to the brush and make sure that you are in a new layer. Let's rename it to stand shadow. And then go to brush tool and then make sure the opacity is like 10 or 15, like small amount. And then let's start as some shadow. You don't need to fill the whole selected area. Don't fill the color. Don't fill all the selected area using brush. If you tend to fill the color using brush, I recommend you to rather use gradient tool rather than brush tool. But I hope you understand what I'm saying. Don't like fill color the whole selected area. Just as I mentioned, shadow like right around right below the element object are the darkest, and then it goes further, it has more distance from the object, the shadow like disappears, it vanishes. So you should, the beginning of the shadow are usually really dark, but the rest area you should make it like it gradually disappears. So try to make like smooth gradient for your shadow. And I really don't like that area, so I will use eraser. Okay. And I might need to define right below the object area. So just use brush tool. I think I need to give you the tablet. Daylight. So, I mean, Rachel, you asked me how to make the screen wider, but now it's time for you to edit it. So let's create daylight. So create a new
Dude, last night from gym, I was like, I am going to go home and dinner and work on lighting. I went home, made dinner, fell asleep in my bed, woke up this morning, and I finished up for class because I worked on lighting, so all the lighting is in. It's like, and I emailed it to Pegs, like, no, I have to look the switches and like the circuits. Oh my god. Dad. I'm literally just my laptop is gonna die anyways. It's on. No.
So either sometimes it'll be clear, or you have to go into edit type. And like actually click on it. There's an edit type. And then see, I did that and it didn't work. Sometimes it's a cable link.
I have a background. Is that the background? Skyline bias. So this one should not be black, right? I know. Is this the layer that you had to put these people on?
if you don't like the photo of the image, then add a new layer above the layer.
So what was this one?
Yes. And then alt key.
I want this is the new thing get rid of this. I don't know what this is.
The change opacity. I don't. When I review some other renderings, it looked better to have an opacity for the entourage. So I would recommend you to change the opacity of the human figure. Okay, and then how about trees? How about planting? Let's go to the plants. Ooh. Tree or plant. Let's type plant for Photoshop rendering. Any other questions? About the human figure? Okay. Okay, let's go back to the Google and type the plant for Photoshop rendering. And then find something has like more like profile view. Try to avoid the like view with some angle. Like this looks good. This looks good. Then copy and paste. Uh-oh. Okay, I pasted in between two layers, so it was parented again. So I would need to exit out from these two layers. Do the same thing as you did in the human figure. Use magic wand tool to remove the white area. Also, when you use magic wand tool, now it's time for you to use contiguous option. So usually when you select, I usually turn it on, the contiguous. So I don't want to select the things I don't want to delete, but especially for when you find some Google images for renderings, it would be better to especially to remove background. If you turn off the contiguous, it select all the color I just clicked. It recognize all the layer. It recognize all the information on the same layer, and then collect the same color information I just clicked. So see, now I'm clicking in the middle of two branches, but it select all the background in this layer. But if I turn it off, if I turn off the contiguous, what I can select is that area, the area, the nearest area around the point I just clicked. So it save your time if you can use those functions. So there are some cases you need that function. There are some cases you don't need that function. So there are like multiple solutions, as I mentioned. There are like some ways to do the same thing. But what you can do is to find the solution and find the effective solution for your work. So I think there's some white area, but so I don't like the white area remain in my rendering. So I would there are two ways so you can change the range of your selection. So first, you can change the tolerance. you can increase the tolerance. It selects more area, more color area. It grabs the more area. Then you select it. So, for example, this. If I increase the tolerance, if I decrease the tolerance to 5, let's tell the difference. So here, this is the area I will select. You see, you can assume that it remains some white area around the plant figure. But if I increase the tolerance to like 100, let's see what will happen. Then let's select. So you'll see it grabs the more color area compared to the when I set the tolerance to 5. So I would do this. I would use tolerance 100 for plants. So you can't see, you barely see the white area than before. Also, since when I paste the layer, it was beyond the canvas range, so it still remains some white area in the bottom part, which is beyond the canvas area. So I need to delete that part again. So I'll place it. Maybe I need to place it in the beyond the window. So I'll move it down here, and then on here. Ooh. So since and
What if you like place something and like some of your background from layer 0 is like showing through it?
layer, maybe you can just use brush, but now since we have something, let's do the same thing we did in the floor plan daylight and elevation daylight. So let's use lasso tool and then draw an angle of the daylight. Then let's follow the surface of the bed. Maybe like this area. Let's imagine that which area will the light touches. So here, I thought that I need to include it. I thought that the light would touch the half part of the bed, and it follows along the bed surface and then move down to the floor area. That's what I imagined. And then I forgot to add feather amount on my lasso tool again, so I need to modify the selection. This time 20, 30. Let's do 30. And then use brush tool again with same opacity, or you keep same opacity, and then with a big, where is it? 10%.
I'm just gonna wait. You can see it from the door, but like, my in your venue is removed. I'll be home Friday. Yeah, I'll be home most weekends because the patient will this weekend. And I just babysit at 5
You should consider the layer option when you use layers.
I have to see about what she has.
So did you guys? So all of you guys, your scan file? You're done? Okay. Let's go back to. Let's start the color rendering enhancement. So any questions related to the entourage?
So I put in like the skyline background last time, but I can't figure out how to get it to like show through the window.
Show through the window. Then you need to
This layer.
where are the windows?
The windows are here and the skyline.
So to make it to see through, you need to make a hole.
Mm-hmm.
So you made a hole like
No, I mean just show. Like I'm gonna explore. I go to it. Oh, God. Well, when we get back, did you say longer? Okay. Not again. Yes. Yeah, it's not yet. They said I didn't have to pass, so I did, but my IC pass was barely on top of it. You can still see the edge pass.
Did we get a ticket?
$110. I didn't get a ticket, I got towed.
It's nice that
Today?
No, at the
Oh,
edge.
the other day.
I got the edge.
That's getting green pass. Yeah, my green light pass, I want to have a green light pass. And then we're going to have a green light pass just to get cash. And then I just put it like this is I just
Our record indicates like and then I picked this. But it's like 130.
I was like, it was literally right there. It's like, yeah. Why did you do it?
I wrote it down in my planner. It was at 3:30. It's too late. I still have to make another appointment. Like 15 minutes
So now I just those are my
Okay, let's open your watercolor. Is there anyone who would like to donate your rendering file? Can you email me? Can you email me? Anyone who can email me? Volunteers? I'll open mine. The problem is, a problem of mine is that mine is not PDF, and then the setting of the file is different with yours. So first, your file is set it. Let's. I need an example. Email me. Email me, please. I need your file.